All right. Good evening. It is 6 o'clock, and we're going to call to the order this meeting of the Placerville Planning Commission. If everyone could please, the meeting on October 19th, 2021, if everyone could stand and join me for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Thank you very much. If you could go ahead and call roll, Mr. Painter.
Member Friend.
Dang it.
Here.
Vice Chair Godberg.
Here.
Member Keeney.
Here.
Chair Lepper.
Here.
Member List.
Okay. Member List is absent tonight. Okay, next item, we're going to go ahead and adopt the agenda for tonight's meeting and approve the minutes from our prior meeting unless any commissioners or members of the public have comments or requests for change. If anyone has any comments or questions on the agenda, okay, then we can go ahead and, did you have one? Oh, so, yeah, go ahead and approve by voice vote. Yeah.
I'll move that we approve the agenda and the minutes.
There we go. Second?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, great, thank you. All right, we do not have any items that were pulled from the consent calendar, so next we have items of interest to the public. Now is the time where any members of the public can address the commission on matters not on tonight's agenda. Do any members of the public wish to address the commission on non-agendized items? Okay, seeing no one, I will go ahead and close the public comment portion and move on to communications. Mr. Painter, do we have any communications tonight?
No, we do not.
Okay, no communications. Do we have any presentations or educational workshop sessions?
None that are scheduled tonight. No.
Okay, great, thank you. So we will move right along to our public hearings here. So the first public hearing we have tonight is for 2849 Ray Lawyer Drive, the conditional use permit 21-02, and the site plan review 79-20-R, and conditional use permit 5-07 at Discovery Plaza. If you could give us the report, Mr. Painter.
Yeah, tonight's request is submitted by Verizon Wireless. It involves proposed wireless telecommunication facility changes at the Discovery Plaza Shopping Center located at 2849 Ray Lawyer Drive. The site location is within the commercial zone as well as the Placerville Drive commercial corridor. Staff's report contains recommended conditions of approval, which are provided as attachment 1. Should CUP 21-02 and site plan review the major change 79-20-R requests are approved by the Commission tonight. It contains the applicant submittal package as attachment 2, which contains completed application forms, project description, photo simulations, site and plan elevations, and a radio frequency electromagnetic fields exposure report for the proposed telecommunication equipment. Attachment 3 contains the compliance status of conditions of approval from the 2005 approved CUP 05-07 and the 1980 approved site plan review 79-20, which established the Discovery Plaza Shopping Center. The Commission is asked by the applicant to take several actions that are also recommended by the Development Services staff. These are to, number 1, approve Verizon's abandonment of the existing conditional use permit, which is titled CUP 05-07, for the site to make it null and void. Number 2, to make findings in support of conditional use permit 21-02, which is a conditional use permit that would capture the wireless facility established and constructed under the 2005 approved aforementioned CUP 05-07, along with findings in support of the proposed major change to the 1979 site plan review 79-20. The major changes are for proposed new construction and placement of 2 additional antenna supports, antennas, screen enclosures, and associated wireless telecommunication equipment proposed on the roof of the shopping center. The existing and proposed screen enclosures would screen the antennas, their support equipment, and structure from public view from Ray Lawyer Drive or Placerville Drive. The proposed improvements are described and shown in the detail in the applicant's submittal package and on page 1 of the staff report. Recommended findings by the city are that the finding that the request would qualify as a Class 1 categorical exemption per Section 15301E of the California Environmental Quality Act, and that the request involves a negligible expansion of an existing wireless telecommunication facility that will not result in an increase in 50% of the floor area of the Discovery Plaza Shopping Center. Make findings that the request is consistent with the commercial land use designation, as well as Goal C of the land use element of the general plan, as the use provides a wireless telecommunication service to those who work, live, and visit Western Placerville and beyond, and the changes to the site will not affect the operations of the existing commercial uses within the Discovery Plaza Shopping Center. Finding also that the project request does not conflict with the commercial zone's minimum setback or maximum building height as analyzed in the staff report. Also making a finding that the request meets the site plan review criterion for building design and rooftop equipment screening, so as they are not visible from any public ways, in that the photo simulations and the plan elevations provided by the applicant show that the existing and proposed screen enclosures will screen and shield the appearance of the antennas and their support structure and will be painted to match the base color of the shopping center. Site plan review 79-20-R is therefore consistent with the city's site plan review regulations. Finally, staff is asking, as well as the applicant, for conditional approval of conditional use permit 20-02 and site plan review 79-20-R, which includes conditions regarding the implementation of the signage and compliance plan described in the radio frequency electromagnetic fields exposure report document, which was provided by the applicant and made part of your packet tonight. That would provide warning and caution to workers using and doing building maintenance activities on the roof. This is necessary as the RF electromagnetic fields exposure levels near the antenna locations would exceed the FCC's limit for the general population. Note that the radio frequency levels on the ground and within interior portions of the Discovery Plaza Shopping Center are below or would be below the FCC limits for the general population. Conditions also include staff recommended retention of previously adopted conditions for the operation and maintenance of site improvement and uses, and the elimination of other completed conditions under CUP 05-07 and Site Plan Review 79-20. Recommended Planning Commission action begins on page 8 of staff report and concludes on page 10, subject once again to the conditions of approval that are provided as attachment 1 of the staff report. Please note that this item was publicly noticed per our normal procedure with publication in the Mountain Democrat, mailers being sent out to property owners within 300 feet, notification on the city's website, and posted to our social media account. No public comments have been received thus far. Ben Koff, representing Verizon Wireless, is in the audience this evening, and that any action taken tonight by the Commission to approve, conditionally approve, or deny the project request can be appealed to City Council within 10 calendar days.
Thank you very much. Okay, do any commissioners have any questions for staff on the report or the packet? No?
I do.
Okay.
Sorry, I
Commissioner
left
Friend?
my button on. I was trying to be incognito. Check. 2 questions for staff. One, it was a little bit difficult for me to assess how much of a visual change there might be from properties south on Ray Lawyer Drive, but up higher than this project. And does staff have any sense for how much difference, if any, people living up above are going to notice? Because I really couldn't tell from the driving vantage that I had.
I think what they would notice is similar to, if not the same, as what they would see today.
Okay.
The enclosure structure that is proposed, the two, would be identical to the one that's already present on the building. So what someone might see from that perspective might be, because there is no top to it, there would be the visibility of perhaps the antennas that are within that enclosure at that elevation above the shopping center.
All right, that's what I took from the staff report, so I'm glad to hear that. Then the other question I have is on page 12 of the staff report. This will be item 13 in the conditions, and it says the permit, and this is an old condition, I think, but I'm just now catching this now. It says, the permittee shall notify the city of intent to vacate the site. It doesn't describe how they will notify the city, nor when. Then it goes on to say, the owner-operator will remove all structures and accessory equipment within 12 months of the date of notice, unless the site is to be occupied by a successor. Well, taking this literally, they could leave a note posted on the city offices and say, see you later, bye, and then they're gone and the stuff is left there, right? It just seems to me that, A, there should be a mechanism how we should be more descriptive, and this doesn't have to be done tonight. You guys can do it ministerially as far as I'm concerned, depending on how everybody else feels. But being more specific about how and when this should happen, how much time in advance of the anticipated vacation should occur. And then it occurs to me that perhaps there's really no hammer here. And now this is germane for tonight, shouldn't the applicant be required, any applicant, not just picking on this one, shouldn't any applicant be required to post a bond sufficient to cover the city's costs for removal in the event the applicant leaves all the stuff there? So those just some thoughts to staff on that, and you can noodle that through, I guess, until we get to a motion for later on tonight.
Well, as to the condition wording, staff would, of course, encourage any input from the commission to help strengthen that language would be appreciative. I don't believe staff has the authority to administratively change a condition as such. We might be able to change a word or two, but to change the intent and focus and timing of it, I think we need your input as well as the public's ability to comment.
Okay.
Regarding the second question or comment, bonding typically would occur during the construction process if it were to occur at all. But in the event that, well, in this case, the improvement to the site back in 2006, where the CUP was granted, those improvements were installed, so there was no mechanism for the city to require a bond. I know of nothing in our code that would. It's an interesting question of staff. I don't know if Director Rivas would like to respond further, but we currently don't have any mechanism in the code for that.
I would make the comment that what's different about this permit locating the Verizon antennas on top of a existing building versus typically what I've done many times in the past, there will be a small postage stamp lease area on a larger parcel, like on top of a knoll or something, where we have seen issues of a wireless company either vacating the site and leaving materials there, or what happens most often is when they update their equipment, and I believe this happened at one of our cell tower sites up on Sacramento Hill, is the equipment remained on the site and created an unsightly situation. And it's a little more difficult then to go after the carrier in that sort of circumstance. But here, I really don't see an issue, because if there was a problem of materials being left on the roof, we could easily go after the property owner, and then the property owner could go after then the leasee. So the property owner being the leaseor, it would then fall on their responsibility to remove materials from the roof. But it'd be fairly simple for us to go after then the property owner, as opposed to if it was a distinct and separate lease on a piece of property. I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, that's helpful, and I'll see if I can't come up with some language that will strengthen this a little bit more. So,
Oh, and just as far as the notification, then, you can certainly just make it clear that the applicant then is to provide us notice in writing.
I think that alone would, okay. Commissioner Keeney, did you have a question for staff? No? Okay, great. So if there are no further questions for staff, then I'll go ahead and invite the applicant to come up to the podium. You can give a short presentation on your application.
So good evening, Commissioners, Madam Chair, and staff. My name is Benjamin Koff with Sequoia Deployment Services representing Verizon Wireless. Verizon is seeking approval to upgrade technology at an existing facility at the Discovery Plaza Shopping Center. As technology advances, there is an increased need to modify these existing facilities. Verizon recognizes that need and is committed to continually improving their network. We have worked alongside staff and believe that the proposed design is the least intrusive, yet still meets the growing demands of Verizon's subscribers. Verizon Wireless has had an opportunity to review the conditions of approval and concurs with all staff recommendations. I have nothing further to add, but I'm more than happy to answer any questions.
Fantastic, thank you. Do any commissioners have have questions for the applicant? Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Koff. I have a couple questions for you about the operational aspect, I guess. The roof access, according to the site plan that you provided, there's one attached ladder that gives access to the roof for the entire building. Is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, and so within the signage and also one of the recommendations from your consultant was to provide, let me get to his recommendations, install barriers and markings with the radio frequency advisory signs. Can you tell us a little bit more about the barriers? I am just a little concerned about people accessing the roof. Say there's another tenant who has a problem, needs to make a repair. And is there anything that would keep them from just getting a ladder or a bucket, a truck, and just getting up on the roof? Say they've got a problem with HVAC on the roof or something like that. Is there something that would prevent them from doing that? Are the barriers that you're going to install going to protect them from getting too close to the radio antennas?
Sure. So in addition to the signage that's posted at the site, adhering to both the FCC and the California Public Utility Commission guidelines, the antennas themselves are fully enclosed, and then there are other physical barriers that are put up there. They resemble chain link. They're not exactly metal, but they are put in place around these enclosures to limit people putting themselves in harm's way.
Okay, great. I wasn't really clear where those the barriers that your consultant had recommended. I wasn't exactly sure where they were going to. Whether there's going to be the entire roof. That seems a little extreme, but it's going to be around where the antennas and the enclosure for the antennas will be around that, so that someone who's not knowledgeable wouldn't accidentally get too close to them.
Right. So they'd be in areas where there's a potential for an increased level of exposure.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
That's all the questions I had.
Okay, great. Do other commissioners have any questions for the applicant? Nope. Okay. Commissioner Friend, do you have any questions?
No, I'm too busy crafting.
Okay, good. You write that new wording. Okay, good. Well, thank you very much. I think that's all of the questions we have right now for you.
Thank you.
And we'll let you know if we need anything else. Okay, so I will now open up this public hearing for public comment. If there's any members of the public who wish to comment on this application, please approach the podium. Seeing none, I will go ahead and close public comment for this and return the matter to commissioners for discussion and action. I guess I'll start that the two questions that you guys had makes complete sense on the enclosures. The levels are high once you're on the roof, so it's good to know that people are protected, that are other neighbors there. And I agree with adding in writing, I think is sufficient for the writing part. And do you have more
so-
that you?
What I'd like to do, I'd like to run my language by staff now and just get your sense on it. So item 13, and again, for the Verizon representative, this is not to pick on you, but again, like I've done in the last couple of meetings, take advantage of things that come before us to correct things moving forward. The permittee shall notify the city of intent to vacate the site. Said notice shall be in writing as soon as the permittee has reasonable knowledge of intent to vacate. Such notice shall be sent to the Community Development Department. Okay. Then at the end, the city shall provide a copy of this notice to the property owner, advising them they may be assessed removal costs, or advising them removal costs may be assessed against the property should the permittee fail to remove the items. So when you get the notice from the permittee that they're going to vacate, okay, the permittee has 12 months to remove the stuff, right? That's what I didn't change that language. But at the same time, that's when you let the landlord know, the property owner know, hey, this equipment's being removed, FYI, they have a year, but if they don't move it within a year, the city may come after you to pay the cost of the removal, because I believe that's what I heard the director say. And in that way, the landlord is now having a conversation, in my view, with the person, the permittee that's got the stuff on the roof. So that's what I'm suggesting.
Yeah, if I could just add, typically what the department would do is we turn it over to code enforcement. We would issue a notice to correct, and if they didn't, we'd file a notice of noncompliance. And of course, that clouds title on the property, and the owner of that center or building would have a high incentive to get it corrected. But I want to make one correction before I forget, if you don't mind. Mm-hmm. You probably meant to say Development Services Department rather than Community Development Department.
No, when did it change?
It changed. It did change. So, yeah.
Sorry. Yes, that's
No,
exactly
okay.
what I meant to say.
Yeah, you've been here a long time. So.
Yeah, I have. Okay, so that's fine. I mean, but going back, and I thank you for your answer, Pierre. The only thing is, it just seems to me that waiting for it to get all the way to code enforcement, which is a year afterwards, right? This kind of lets the property owner know up front, hey, they're going to be leaving, and maybe the property owner knows or doesn't know that it's happening, and lets the property owner know what could happen down the road. I'm just thinking that maybe, if it's an inconvenience, that's fine, but it was just a suggestion.
Can I ask Commissioner Friend to repeat the second sentence that he added to the end of that condition?
Okay, so what I was proposing, and if staff wants me to withdraw it, I'm not going to die on this. I think the first part of it's what's important about how they give you notice. And when
I
they give
think
you
that's
notice.
clear. It's the second part where.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my language was, upon receipt of this notice, the city shall provide a copy of same to the property owner, advising them the city may assess removal costs against the property should the permittee fail to do so within the 12 months as required.
What was the part that you described the timeline? Reasonable amount of time. Could you repeat
I
that
said,
part?
said notice shall be in writing as soon as the permittee has reasonable knowledge of the intent to vacate. Now, you can't prove when they actually knew it, right? That there's no way you're going to do it, but I think that's about probably as good as you can, unless the staff or the commission wants to say we have to have X number of days, weeks, months advance notice, right? That's the other way to approach that. So, but I'm going to say that it's not always known and the city seems comfortable that they've got mechanisms to deal with it. I think it's just better than the pretty generic language that was here originally.
Staff would just make a real quick comment, and I'll also defer to the city planner. If there's a reason that it specifies 12 months, you can certainly make it shorter. You can make it 6 months. Should be plenty of time to remove any equipment from the roof.
I don't know. In a COVID environment, it could be 12 months. So I didn't have an issue with the 12 months personally.
Yeah, I was here in 2006 when this got adopted. I don't remember why 12 months was.
Nice dodge.
Yeah, well, I'll stick to it.
Yeah. Countdown. Okay. Do any commissioners have any issue with how Commissioner Friend had put condition 13 in the new language?
My only concern is adding undue, and it's not much, undue work for the Development Services Department to contact the owner of the property. I would think that the permittee, knowing how commercial leases run, if they're going to vacate the property, the property owner is the first person they're going to tell that our lease is running for 2 more years, we will not renew, or for some reason maybe they're terminating the lease earlier. So to my thinking, the property owner would know in plenty of time that they aren't going to have an occupant for that particular space. And I appreciate that. So I would ask that we take out that step.
I have a suggestion.
Allow
me this suggestion.
But I was going to, if I could just have another change that I was going to ask for your. Okay, go ahead. I lost my train of thought.
I'm
ahead,
so
Michael.
sorry. It just fleeting. It occurred to me that we'll make the permittee copy the landlord. So that takes then the community development. The new department doesn't have to do it. The responsibility is on the permittee. So they have to notify the property owner that we have to do this, and we will, because then if we don't, then the city's going to come after you for it. You know what I'm saying? So they just CC the notice. The notice shall be CC'd. That's the easiest way, I think. The notice shall be CC'd to the property owner, period. Just leave it like that.
So
then that takes the whole community, and since we don't have a motion yet, we don't have to have votes and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So, Commissioner Keeney, I'm so sorry for talking over you and having you lose your other.
To streamline your amendment a little bit more, so we'll add. I think that's a good idea to notify in writing the city's Development Services Department, and as well as the property owner. And then I wanted to streamline the language at the end to something like failure to remove equipment may result in code enforcement. Just so it's very clear what it is where again you're trying to alert the property owner to take care of this before we have to turn it over to code enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that language.
Okay. That sounds good.
So may result, help me with that's where I was, I hadn't quite finished that sentence, may result in just in code enforcement.
Property code enforcement.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
In property code enforcement. Okay.
You should probably read that out for Andrew.
For sure.
Okay, so Mr. Painter, what are you going to do? You have all those notes together?
Yes. This is what I believe.
Okay.
The amalgam of what was done here. The permittees shall notify the city of intent to vacate the site. Said notice shall be in writing to the Development Services Department and the property owner. The owner-operator will remove all structures, accessory equipment within 12 months
I don't really have a problem with the 12.
leaving it.
Yeah.
of the date of notice, unless the site is to be occupied by a successor. What I'm looking for now is there a conjunction? Is there a Are we adding to that sentence, or is it a new sentence that says failure or may result in code enforcement? Where are we with combining those two sentences?
That's, my idea was a new sentence,
Yeah.
failure
Okay.
to remove
Quick little guy
equipment
that says
may
right there.
result in,
But who is that relevant to? Is that relevant to the permittee? Because the permittee saying, yeah, okay, we'll enforce the code, I'm out of here, right? So not to be...
the owner-operator per the previous sentence.
I would think it, yeah, at that point it would be over on the owner to, so,
It-
No,
The
but
other
the
key-
relevance, I guess I'm going after the relevance of it, because code enforcement action, if I understood correctly, is really going to go ultimately to the property owner. I mean, it could go to the owner, but if they haven't complied with this, you see what I'm saying? So I'm kind of wondering if it's getting exactly what we are hoping it's going to get to. I understand where you're going with it. Can I go back, though, Andrew? The first part, said notice shall be in writing as soon as the permittee has reasonable knowledge. You didn't seem to capture that when you read that back.
As soon as the
Permittee has reasonable knowledge of intent to vacate.
To me, the language that you suggested is pretty clear, that the property owner will be pursued, that the owner-operator is responsible for removing, but then the property owner will be pursued,
Right.
which is what's going to happen at
puts
the end
them
of the
on
day.
notice as opposed to it, kind of falling off of, their responsibility, and then the city has to step up. I, want them to, just a reminder, as if they don't already know.
At the end of the day, your landlord at the top,
Well, maybe I missed
Yeah,
it.
Madam Chair, if I may, I don't know,
Yes.
hopefully this will be helpful, just some of the mechanics of code enforcement. Many times we do go after a renter or the leasee rather than leaseor, but we always, in that situation, we CC the owner of the property. So the letter may go out to Verizon, we would be CCing the property owner, so the property owner then is also on board that the city is taking enforcement action for noncompliance.
Thank you.
Within regular, now, okay.
That's once it gets to code enforcement, right? Yeah, so that's once it gets to code enforcement. My concept was that when the city receives notice that they're intending to vacate, which then triggers the 12 months to remove the equipment, it's at that point that I also think the property owner should know. That's why I was a little bit confused how the property owner would learn about code enforcement, because we're not asking the permittee to say anything about code enforcement in their notice to the city. We're simply asking them to, let the city know we're planning to leave, and then that notice similarly goes to the property owner, which takes the department out from having to provide that notice, right? Which is what my original suggestion was. So I agree with you. Don't make them do that. Make the permittee do that. There's nothing in that notice about code enforcement. So code enforcement is not going to come until, we get past the 12 months, there's a failure, then there's communication to the permittee, Verizon, wherever they're located, and we get no satisfaction. Now we're 2 years down the road or more, and then we're going to start the code enforcement, and that's when the landlord gets something, right? I was simply saying it'd be nice, it seems to me, it would be nice if the landlord gets a heads up at the time the city is getting a heads up that we're leaving. That's all I was suggesting. And so I'm a little bit confused when the code enforcement comes up.
Yes.
I will remind the commission that all the conditions of approval are subject to code enforcement. And if we were to add language that all of them have that language in it, that seems to me to be too redundant.
Yeah.
I'm not being critical of your comment. I just want to remind the commission that it's the expectation. Plus, I want to let you know that the property owner authorized this submittal to be presented to you on behalf of the applicant and their representative. So they are aware of what's going on and what proposed changes to their site are before you tonight. I'm I'm not here to dissuade you on adding the words code enforcement or not. I just wanted to let you know that all of these are subject to code enforcement.
Yeah, I kind of agree with the redundancy a little bit and wonder if trying to come up with like perfectly crafted on the fly of like kind of legalese, if you will, almost of like everyone's requirements might be a little bit larger than we want to take on in this particular one. Like maybe we can look at this condition if it's included in other ones in general, or I think.
Oh, I'm
I think
perfectly
it's
happy to take that
sufficient.
last sentence off about what may result in code enforcement. I had offered that just to streamline what I thought Michael's intent was. So maybe I read too much into that. But, given what Mr. Painter just reminded us of, let's just strike that final sentence about, code enforcement. And
It's a given that if they don't follow the conditions, code enforcement comes into play.
But the important thing, I think, the important change is to say in writing to Development Services Department and the property owner. So I think we've captured what's important and made the proper change to condition 13.
Okay.
Now we need somebody to make a motion.
Oh, I had one other
more.
thing for your consideration, Commissioners. I am a little concerned about safety up there. If you remember from the consultant's report, took a look at the maps that they gave us of the possible exposure to radio frequencies on the roof, which is their page. Let's see, that is page 8 of their report. I am, I am satisfied that the applicant is going to install, fencing to keep people away from those hazardous areas, but I had wanted to propose that we add a 14th condition that the permittee shall inform the existing and future tenants of the building about the potential hazards of exposure to electromagnetic fields at rooftop levels and the requirements of radio frequency training for personnel working on the roof. I am offering that just as another precaution for others who may go up there and may not be aware of the potential danger, and make sure that, especially if you have a change in tendency, just make sure that they're aware that, we've got, it's not just antennas up there, but there is, some concern, and you need to be, any workers need to be trained. So again, putting that on the permittee to do to inform the other tenants. So that was another condition I was going to offer that you, for your consideration.
So because access to the roof is restricted, right? There's probably a special locking ladder. Not anybody can just go up there. Wouldn't it be, could your concern not be addressed, mitigated simply by a placard at that point, the point of entry, before they even get up on the roof? Hey, accessing an area with potentially hazardous electromagnetic radiation, et cetera. Any questions you need to contact Verizon or whoever. That way we don't have to deal with whoever the tenant changes are or any of that thing. It's the point
We
of
don't. That's the language is that the permittee would do that.
But I mean, it's addressed at the point of entry. Hazardous materials beyond this point, dangerous gases, et cetera.
Which this is an access point to an area with transmitting antennas. Do you think the sign is insufficient?
No, I think the signage is excellent, and I appreciate that. I think the consultant did a wonderful job explaining that. However, I know how roofers work. I was in the industry a little bit. I know that people also, when they are, something goes wrong, they may just take it on themselves to put a ladder up beside the building and go up there and do some repair. I just want to have this extra level of safety that the tenants, I think that the current tenants probably are aware that there's some action up there, but subsequently other tenants might not be aware of that. So just to inform them of, the existence, the potential harm, and that they do need to, that they should not go around the locked ladder and just throw up a ladder. If they have a problem, they need to, take the proper steps to get that repair done. Just as a fail-safe.
Yeah. I absolutely appreciate the spirit of it. I just don't understand, not sure if is it enforceable, I guess, if you will? Or is that just a desire that we have that they do that? Like, how will we know if, nail salon moves in for a month and then moves out? Did they get noticed? Like, are they now out of, step with their conditions? I just see that as being hard to manage for, although I totally agree with the spirit behind it. And I mean, to me, I think if you're going to throw a ladder up on a roof through a locked ladder and go up there, whether you got a notice or whether these signs are there, you may be doing that anyway, would be my thought process. So,
well, I guess my thought was that if you go that extra step to have them let the tenant know of the hazard, that would prevent someone from doing that in, anything other than, I guess, an emergency in the moment,
right,
to override it.
I just worry about the law of unintended consequences. I worry that a tenant is going to take this information and let's say they develop leukemia or something, and then they're going to use this as a reason to go after the permittee, the company. It seems to me it's raising alarm bells where alarm bells don't need to be raised. There are plenty of federal, and I would imagine OSHA probably has some role in this as well, regulations that determine what the safety parameters are for these types of operations. And I'm reluctant and a little bit uncomfortable with us just imposing additional, because, and I agree with the chair that the spirit is clearly understood and agreed upon, but the actuality, the practicality is I'm not sure it's appropriate. And I guess that's the only way I can put it. It seems like it could cause undue concern where undue concern is not warranted.
I mean, I guess, is there a way to modify Condition 10? So Condition 10 is to eliminate prolonged occupational exposure of workers maintaining convenience store roof and all related equipment. Access to the roof shall be strictly limited to only those maintaining the roof. Maybe add something there with knowledge of the potential exposures and all equipment and support structures. So that means anybody who goes on the roof has to know of the...
If I could build on that strikes me as nobody can get up and maintain that roof without the approval of the property owner.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So do we make the property owner responsible for letting people know of hazardous conditions up on the roof? Special conditions up on the roof? Because you can't, I like this. I didn't catch this. Thank you so much for that. Access to the roof shall be strictly limited. Who's doing that? The landlord is the entity that is doing the strict limitation here, I would think. They're the only ones with power to do it, right? It's their building. It's their property. So anybody that wants to do maintenance or work on there probably has to get permission from the property owner. I think that's perhaps what needs to happen. The property owner gave permission for this application, so we send a notice back to the property owner, hey, you make sure you have to let people know that this stuff is up there. If the intent is safety, the question really becomes who owns that responsibility. I think the property owner owns the responsibility for safety in all matters, frankly.
Chair Lipper?
yes.
I did speak to Ben Koff, and just to clarify, and maybe this was mentioned earlier by one of the members, but the enlarged documents that you have, where it does state the access ladder's location, I got to confirm through Mr. Koff that the two signs that are proposed for the ladder access, which is The only way that staff and the applicant representative knows of how to get to the roof would be the top two. And is that sufficient enough notice for those who would have access to the roof
Yeah.
to meet the intent of?
Okay, I will withdraw my proposed 14.
Yeah, to me, these two signs are kind of covering that, and I think we're getting into kind of a lot of what ifs. Like, what if someone throws a ladder up and climbs up there and they didn't know? And again, like, I appreciate us wanting to manage for that, but also, is it enforceable? Is it consistent? I just am not sure the necessity of that, especially with the very clear signage to me that will be posted and that they've agreed to post clearly.
Okay.
Are you guys okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, so we are not going to add. Okay, so would anyone like to make a motion around this one and restate number 13 just to be clear for the record? Am I allowed to make the initial motion?
Yeah, you can.
Okay, I will go ahead and make a motion. Let's say I would like to, wow, it's been a minute since I did this. Okay, so I will make a motion to adopt the staff record into, the staff report into the record and approve conditional use permit 21-02, site plan review, site plan SPR 79-20-R, and eliminate conditional use plan 05-07. Approve the recommendation with the conditions of approval that are listed on staff report pages 11 through 14, with the update that on number 13 condition, the permittee shall notify in writing the Development Services Department and the property owner of intent to vacate the site. The owner-operator will remove all structures and accessory equipment within 12 months of the date of notice unless the site is to be occupied by a successor. And did we just leave it at that?
Michael, are you okay with that?
I second the motion for sake of discussion.
Okay. Second. All right. So any discussion on it? Are you guys?
I didn't hear any findings being made.
Yeah, so thank you. So
I might have missed, yeah.
I would like to amend the motion
Please.
to include that we make the findings as stated on Roman numeral 2 and 3 on page 8 of the staff report.
Thank you.
Okay, is that sufficient for findings, Mr. Painter?
Yes, there are also findings that staff and the applicant are suggesting for the CUP 21-02, Roman numeral 5, A through C, and Roman numeral 7, A through C.
I'll include those findings in my amended motion, and also I believe the language, again, just to get this right, on 13, at least for my portion now, where did I put it? The part is, said notice shall be in writing to the department, and as soon as the permittee has reasonable knowledge of intent to vacate. So I'm going to make sure that's the when they have to do it.
Okay.
As soon as they have reasonable knowledge. If you'll
And the rest
accept
is
those.
sufficient? I absolutely accept those. Thank you. Of intent to vacate. Okay, thank you. Sorry about the findings. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Are we, any further discussion? Are you guys ready to call roll?
I'm good.
Okay, can you call roll, Mr. Painter?
Sure, I'll go from left to right this time. Member Keeney,
Aye.
Chair Lepper,
Aye.
Vice Chair Gottberg,
Aye.
Member Friend.
Aye.
Okay, the record will show that the application has been approved by 4-1. A reminder that, I'm sorry, not 4-1, 4-0, all four commissioners. Geez. And a reminder that there's a 10-day calendar appeal period for all planning commission decisions that can be made to the city clerk at City Hall. Okay, thank you for coming and representing Verizon, and good luck with everything, and thank you. Okay, so we will now move on to our next public hearing for the evening, which is A site plan review for 2890 Mosquito Road for the El Dorado Irrigation District site. Mr. Painter, do you have the report?
I do. This item involves a proposed major change to what is called Phase 2 of EID's master plan for their site at 2890 Mosquito Road. And this particular amendment or major change is to Site Plan Review 00-10. It's a Phase 2 of that approval was actually conducted and approved by the Planning Commission in 2006. Phase 1 occurred back in late 2000, early 2001, if I'm not mistaken. The major change tonight involves the installation of an energy storage system consisting of battery storage power packs, an inverter cabinet, along with associated switchboard, utility meter, transformer, and control equipment. All of this would be mounted on a concrete pad and have an enclosure around it with the dimensions of 56 feet 10 inches in width by 22 feet 10 inches in depth and 10 feet high. The enclosure will consist of split-faced concrete masonry unit or CMU block. Again, it's split-faced to give that texture on the outside. The enclosure is sized to accommodate a future backup emergency generator also. EID is seeking this improvement to the site to aid EID administrative operations during power outages. This is very similar to the enclosure that Tesla is operating currently at the hospital. I think that went before you last summer or last spring, if I'm not mistaken. So a very similar application here. In this case, this enclosure would be visible from Mosquito Road, and because site plan review criteria require that all mechanical equipment be screened from you, that's why the enclosure is before you this evening. The staff report contains recommended conditions of approval as attachment 1. Should the major change request be approved by the Commission, it contains also in attachment 2 the applicant submittal package, which contains the completed application forms, detailed project description, as well as site and plan elevations. Attachment 3 contains the compliance status of conditions of the approval from the 2006 Phase 2 approval of Site Plan Review 00-10. The Commission is asked by the applicant to take the action that is also recommended by staff based on staff's analysis of the request provided in staff's report, as well as along with the information provided in the applicant submittal package. These actions are to make findings that the request is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act per CEQA Guideline Section 15303E, in that the request involves the installation of new accessory equipment and the construction of an enclosure structure which is appurtenant to the existing on-site EID administrative buildings. Make findings in support of the proposed major change to the Phase 2 of Site Plan Review 00-10R, and these include that the land use designation and zone classification for the site are heavy commercial. Make the finding that the project would not adversely affect the general plan document and is also consistent with the purpose of the heavy commercial zone in that the parcel is designated by the general plan for public and quasi-public facilities and offices, and that the energy storage equipment and equipment screening proposed by the applicant, these are pertinent to the uses of the administrative offices there in site. The request, therefore, would mitigate for working environment disruptions at EID during power outages, thus creating conditions conducive for desirable working conditions, which is consistent with the purpose of the heavy commercial land use designation. Finally, make the finding that the project is consistent with the site plan review criteria under City Code Section 1049G, in that the request involves for the screening enclosure that is dimensioned to completely obscure visibility of the proposed energy storage system components and the future backup emergency generator from the public view along Mosquito Road, and that the enclosure would have a split-faced CMU material finish, which is harmonious with the site as this material is used for existing retaining walls and other enclosures within the EID site campus located at 2890 Mosquito Road. Finally, the applicant and staff request conditional approval of major change SPR 00-10R, subject to the conditions of approval contained in Attachment 1. As I mentioned in the previous item, this agenda item was also publicly noticed per the city's procedures, and the city received no public comments. As a reminder, the Planning Commission's action tonight to approve, conditionally approve, or deny the request, that action can be appealed to City Council within 10 calendar days. John Money, who's an engineer with the EID, is in the audience this evening representing the property owner. That concludes my staff report.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Do any commissioners have questions for staff about the report?
I do. One question I had was the need for the lot line or parcel adjustment on page, here we go. That's at page 10 of the staff report. So the EID facility has been there since the early 2000s, and now we're requiring parcel merge or lot line adjustment. And the reason given is the undergrounding of the electrical conduit between the storage system and the administration building nearby. I'm just curious as to why this wasn't required before. There's utilities, crisscrossing the three parcels currently. Is this just time to do some essentially housekeeping?
Well, in this particular case, a building permit really needs to be on one parcel, and so when you cross property boundaries, it makes it difficult for us. It's also, I believe, in conflict with the building code. So we wanted to correct that in this particular case. So the option is to merge the properties or to do a boundary line adjustment so that the entirety of that conduit placed underground would be on one lot instead of on three lots.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so they've...
But if there were issues where we could have merged properties in the past. I can't speak to that. I don't know the reason why, but in this case, it's a clear evidence where we do need to get that corrected, and it's no charge to EID to have that done.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. And the other question I had for you was if a landscape maintenance agreement was filed?
It was not.
Okay.
And it is required this time.
And it is required. And was it required in 2000 or when the landscape was originally put in? Is that why we don't have it today? Or
don't know. I don't know the reason.
There is no landscape maintenance agreement.
But upon review of previous conditions of approval and noticing that we don't have one, and this is a major change to a site plan review, so it does allow the city to enforce conditions that may or may not have been in effect in 2000. I don't know when the landscape agreement came into being. I don't know when.
It was subsequent to 2000, I'm pretty sure.
Was it? Okay.
And
then it was an oversight by staff.
Of all the projects where we've requested a landscape agreement and maybe did or didn't get one, the landscape that EID put in is exactly as they said it was going to be, and they've done a great job of maintaining it. So we haven't been hurting for the absence. I certainly agree that we should take care of that now, but they've done a really, really good job, I think, with their landscape.
I'm going to have to disagree with you on that, but we can discuss that when we bring it back to council.
Maybe it's what we asked them to do.
Okay. Any other questions for staff about the report? No? Okay. Did you have one, Nicole?
No.
Okay. So at this time, we will go ahead and welcome the applicant up to the podium for his presentation.
Good evening again, John Money, senior civil engineer with El Dorado Irrigation District. And again, this project is largely centered around a CUPC grant funding project that's administered through PG&E to provide battery backup throughout their service areas. So that's why it's similar. Again, Marshall was here under the same program a couple months ago. So in general, Tesla is the batteries themselves are paid for by underneath this program, but it gives the district an opportunity to address deficiencies with the building. Currently, only half of the building is able to is backed up by the existing generator that's on site, which is normally wouldn't be as much of a challenge, but with PSPS events that have been not this year, but we've been very fortunate, but in the past have been pretty frequent. We've had several days where we've had only half the building powered, and so then it's logistics trying to get everybody to a workstation that works. So the Tesla batteries provide not only full backup to the building, but instantaneous backup. So when you experience a power outage and everybody shuts down for 10 minutes as their computers reboot, it really negates all that. So for the most part, until the battery runs out, it's business as usual, which is a real benefit for the district. Again, we will be also eventually incorporating a backup generator as well. The existing generator is undersized to power the whole building. It was only designed for the annex portion of the building. So when the batteries do run out, the generator will provide power during extended outages, which should be pretty infrequent, or we're hoping moving forward. So I think that's the gist of this. If there's any other questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you very much. Do any commissioners have questions for the applicant?
I do have a question.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much. This is a very important project for EID, and it looks like a good one. My question is about security for this unit. I know that you're going to have it locked, but I also know that things are subject to vandalism, theft. What within the enclosure is going to protect, and this is probably a very valuable, costly project. Can you tell us a little bit more without divulging any secrets, perhaps?
Right. It is a costly facility. So again, it's pretty standard though for commercial buildings to have their switchgear located outside in a locked facility. And basically, other than the batteries, that's really what the line portion of this project is the switchgear that, allows us again to basically intercept our electrical service outside the building and bring that back into the building so that we can power. So we're bringing the everything to the forefront of the building so that we can power the entire building. So I would think that it's similar to that. Everything within the enclosure will have a locked cabinet. And then the Tesla equipment itself is fully monitored by Tesla. So they monitor that on a continuous basis. If there's any errors or anything that come up with that, that's part of their service contract for the district for the next 10 years as they provide, basically instantaneous monitoring of that system to notify any problems that would exist.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant? No? Okay, thank you so much.
Yep.
We'll let you know if you need anything else. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and open the public comment portion of this public hearing. Any members of the public who wish to address the commission on this topic, please approach the podium. Seeing none, I will go ahead and close public comment and return the matter to commissioners for discussion and action.
Chair Lip,
Yes.
I have a comment.
Okay.
There was a brief discussion about the landscaping and the landscape maintenance agreement. I was reminded from my own attachment 3, it was condition 38, which a landscape maintenance agreement was on the record to be done, to be completed. Staff imposed that back in 2006, but the agreement was never done at staff level with the EID to get it recorded. Mm-hmm. So I just want to clarify that condition has been there. I'm just daylighting that to you that we need to do that now. And we also want to incorporate the Phase 1 landscaping. That's why in the staff report it describes a couple of different documents that would comprise that landscape agreement. It wouldn't be just the Phase 2. It would also be the administrative building as well. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for that clarification. Do any commissioners have questions, motion, discussion?
Well, back to the landscape, the condition of the landscape. Commissioner Friend, I go by the EID headquarters facility daily and sometimes more than once. And they did install a beautiful landscape design. I was really impressed at the beginning, but it has fallen on hard times. There's some drainage issues, I think some irrigation problems too. So I respectfully disagree with you upon the current condition, and I think that this landscape maintenance agreement is going to help EID. It gives them motivation to improve that, along with the other work that they're doing with this project. And the landscape maintenance agreement then gives the city a little enforcement for them to stay on top of that, replace missing plants and fix irrigation and runoff problems too. To that 10B, now that is a condition 10B. I was going to suggest that we add a bit of the language that we had for the, it was at our last meeting, and this is for the quick serve project. It was just very clear on, that's on page 2 of our maintenance under 4.2. It just spells out what the LMA is about, that not only it's not just an approved landscaping plan, it's also for the maintenance. And I think EID is, they're always on they meet all the conditions, as best they can. And I think that once we bring this to their attention, they probably will be motivated to improve that. But I would ask that we borrow some of the language from that that we use for quick serve. Mostly, there's a statement here from the quick serve project that the permittee or the applicant property owner pay all city and El Dorado County fees associated with the preparation and recording of the LMA, and also that perhaps the first sentence that the LMA binds the property owner to agree to plant and maintain the approved landscaping, and it's the maintenance part. Like I said, the EID went to the expense of the design and the installation, but they fell short maintenance, and so that's my concern on this. So I'd like to know how the rest of you feel about adding just a clear statement, just to remind them that we are concerned about that. Also to treat them the same as we treat other project applicants.
So basically, this whole thing minus the property owner shall provide current property deed, that sentence take out, and just have
sure,
the
we
first
could just
and third.
borrow the whole, as far as I'm concerned, borrow that whole paragraph. And make it, tailor it to this particular parcel number or this project.
Would you be open to replacing that whole first paragraph with this paragraph instead? Replacing a land maintenance agreement is required by code for Phase 1 and shall apply to the landscape and irrigation plans, and just replace it with they shall sign and cause the recording of a landscape to be prepared by the city that binds the property to agree to plant and maintain approved landscaping. Property owner shall pay, da-da-da-da-da, it says right there, and then have it start at Phase 1, drawings, L1, Phase 2. The rest of it stay the same?
That's very close. I don't want to lose the intent that the LMA is required by code for both Phase 1 and Phase 2 improvements. So
just insert these two sentences prior to the current beginning?
Sure. Just add that to the beginning of 10B, and then keep it as written by staff. Landscape, or we could just change it at that point to LMA is required by code for Phase 1 and Phase 2, because I recognize that the city's trying to, like I said, do a little, if you will, a little housekeeping here to make sure that, again, that we're treating all the applicants the same. How do the rest of you feel about that?
Yeah, that's good. And to your point about the language that we crafted with regards to the quick serve, I'd like to request staff to consider making that kind of the boilerplate language, because I think we're always going to want to use that language. So I'm not sure if it has emerged to be boilerplate, but it certainly should head that direction, I would think.
I do like that it says agree to plan and maintain. I think it makes it really clear and concise what you have to do and then how it goes into play. We'll be following that.
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem with adding that language. Makes sense to me.
Okay. Great. Any
Thank
other questions or discussion around this application?
No, my concern about the security, now I'm clear that it's going to be a almost tamper-proof. I hate to say that. It's like jinxing it, but yeah, it's it's high voltage, and but I do know, there's a lot of passersby. I know that EID has been subject to vandalism, and I'm just, I guess my concern was if you had to step it up, worst case, concertina wire surrounding it, then what are, I guess that becomes another site plan review, but that was where I was kind of going with that.
Just electrify the fence.
Again, I think my personal preference is to kind of avoid concertina wire. I mean, so in general, it's a 10-foot structure, so nothing is ever tamper-proof. But it's similar to the roof you were talking about earlier. It's going to be somebody has to go out of their way to climb a 10-foot wall and gate, and then, cut locks on locked equipment. And if someone's going to do that, they're just going to do that. And I don't know. I mean, that's the same thing as breaking into the back door of the building if it was located inside. So,
and you have patrols occasionally when the building's not occupied?
I am not. That is not my responsibility, so I can't really speak to that. We do, the site is alarmed. I believe we do have some additional security. It's also a favorite pastime of both police and sheriff to file the reports in our parking lot for some reason. So they've, I think there's a pretty good presence out there. Yeah, I think they get gas. Yeah, I think that's what they do is they get gas across the street and then they drive up and park in our back lot.
And it's also at the very front. It's a very, I don't want to say prominent, but it is at the front of that.
Yeah, it's right on
that DG area,
right.
Very visible from the street.
Right.
And
again, I don't. As far as high voltage, it's not out of the ordinary from any other commercial facility that has, or even municipal, our pump stations and whatnot, they often have the switchgear outside as well. That's just on a commercial side. You usually move that box outside so that you can make improvements, unlike how we did it previously. So I would also say on the maintenance agreement, again, that's not something that EID does internally. We have contracts for landscapers and whatnot. And so my guess is that if there are plants that are missing or things have gone a little astray, really we just need to be made aware of that, and then we can pursue that with whoever our current contract is with. We're not trying to skimp on any of that. I think it's probably just not really high on our radar. So,
and I appreciate it. You have a lot going on up there. It is a low priority, but yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like any other. I mean, I see guys out there. They're at least out there once a week, if not a couple times a week, doing maintenance out there. So it's a large facility. But as engineers and water system operators, it's not probably what we look at right away. So. If it can just be brought to our attention, then we can get it addressed.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Thank you very much. Okay. Would anyone like to make a motion? Huh? Yeah. Should I try again? And see if I can get the findings this time?
Well, I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Chair Lepper.
Why, thank you.
That we take the recommended Planning Commission action from as described in the staff report, entering the staff report into the public record and making the determination that this project is exempt from CEQA analysis, following on through items 3, make the findings as listed, 3A through, A through E, regarding the project and its zoning and consistency with the general plan, and approve the site plan review for 2080 Mosquito Road, and adopting the conditions of approval as described in attachment 1 of the staff's report. Those are 1, 2, 3, on through to 10B, where we have the amended language, where we're going to insert the language that we've used previously, and for Mr. Painter's benefit, I guess I'll just go ahead and read that so you know which sentences we want to include, which are that the property owner shall sign and cause the recording of a landscape maintenance agreement to be prepared by the city that binds the property owner to agree to plant and maintain the approved landscaping. The property owner shall pay all city and El Dorado County fees associated with the preparation and recording of the LMA and charges and services associated with property owner and staff agreement signature notarization, and then continuing with the language as written in the staff report for 10B regarding the landscape maintenance agreement itself.
Second.
Fantastic. I do have one question. Oh, sorry. Should it be 4?
It's a good thing I gave it a second. Right? And then I had a question, but I'll yield to the chair first.
Should, on page 8, should that be number 4, Roman numeral 4, instead of 3?
Is there Roman numeral 3 on page 7?
Mm-hmm.
There is. It should be Roman numeral 4 on page 8.
Uh-huh. Nice catch.
So
Cool.
I am, just to be clear, I'm not asking you to restate anything, although I'm a little bit unclear on page 11, 10B, what language as is in the staff report remains or comes out, plus and is being replaced. It was unclear to me. So right now it reads 10B, a landscape agreement, LMA is required by code of law. That stays. Right? Okay, the first bullet, phase 1, that stays. Phase
Everything
2,
stays. My motion was to insert before that
Before
a landscape
which?
Before the opening sentence.
So
so preceding what's in the report, a landscape, your language. Okay, great. I just wasn't sure.
I didn't know how else to
That's fine.
weave
No,
them together. So
yeah.
just
I think it's clear.
make an insertion at the beginning and then keep the rest of it, because it's very clear that we have phase 1, phase 2, and the other language that staff has prepared.
Yeah, sounds good.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, Mr. Painter, can you call roll?
This time I'll go from my right to left. Member Friend.
Yes.
Vice Chair Godberg.
Aye.
Chair Lepper.
Aye.
Member Keeney.
Aye.
Fantastic. So the project is approved, and there is a reminder that there's a 10-day calendar appeal period for all Planning Commission decisions, which can be made to the city clerk at City Hall. Thank you very much for coming tonight, and good luck with your project. Okay, so now we will move along in our agenda that I don't know where it is. So we're going to go to new business. Is there any new business for the commission to attend to tonight?
No. Also, there are no continued items either.
Fantastic. Are there any matters from commissioners or staff that need to be presented?
Commissioner List will be so disappointed I have nothing to bring forward under this item.
Wait till he comes back. Staff, do you have anything?
I believe Director Rivas has a update.
Just a quick update on what used to be called the Gateway Hotel, and a little history on this site. I think I may have mentioned it before, but it's just interesting to look at the history of this site. I think it was back in the late 1980s that originally it was going to be an Anderson split pea soup restaurant and hotel. Then after that, it was the Holiday Inn Express. And then after that, it was the Hampton Inn and Suites, two versions of that. One, a conventional construction, and then a second building proposal to be of the modular type of construction. The project proponent saw a modular hotel built on East Bidwell in Folsom and liked it and decided to give that a try. Unfortunately, it just drove the cost of the project up, and it went the wayside. So we have a new developer now. It's kind of different. The company is called Eat, Drink, and Sleep, and they develop boutique hotels. Sometimes they'll buy an old building, an old hotel, and make it into more of a destination type of hotel. So this will be a one-of-a-kind. They're going to utilize the existing foundation that was originally poured for the Holiday Inn hotel. So we're very excited. We've got meetings scheduled for, I think, Thursday. They've submitted their application. There's just some additional information we want to get from them so we can complete the preparation of the conditions of approval. It wasn't too difficult. We were able to use the previous two hotels' COAs as templates, and so we'll just modify it somewhat, especially with the latest one. It's using pretty much the developed site that was being constructed for the Holiday Inn and Suites. So we hope to bring it to this commission at your second meeting in November or your first meeting in December.
Great. So was the foundation for the fueling component ever poured?
The applicant has stated to us that they will not be pursuing a fueling station.
But was there a foundation poured for it going back?
There was not.
There was not.
That is just
Okay.
a pad.
Okay.
Where they were going to have the gas station and a convenience store and a car wash. Car wash being probably one of the more contentious components of the project. So it's nice to see that go away. I think they're looking at some kind of a store there to serve the Apple Hill folks coming through. They'll also have a charging station that they're proposing for that site. But this particular application coming for you will just be for development of the hotel site and not the adjoining site.
Great.
We're very excited.
Yeah, we look forward to that application coming before us. Sounds like it's coming down the pipeline. Do you have anything else for us tonight? Any other announcements? No?
So do we know if we have a meeting for sure, the first meeting in November, or no? First Tuesday in November.
As usual, I do wait for an applicant to provide me with whether or not they're available to meet. So the next applicant in line, not counting the hotel project, their project's ready. I've already done the staff report. It's ready to go, but they physically may not be able to make either meeting in November, so that's where we are. So at this point, unless I hear by like 9:30 tomorrow morning, which is when we would have to have a notice published, or at least off to the Mountain Democrat for publication on Friday for the next meeting.
Right.
It's not going to happen.
Okay.
But I will let you know if it does. So just assume if I don't hear from you or Lynn does not provide you a notice, then we won't be having a meeting.
Okay.
But
For the first.
for the first, yeah.
Okay. We will keep our eyes open.
And when do we lose you, Andrew? I forget.
This potentially could be my last meeting.
Oh, geez.
Too soon, too soon.
Oh, we're not going to let them go.
No, I don't blame you.
Thanksgiving week. That's my departure.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, well, with that, again, sad news that we all know. Now, we can go ahead. Any further questions, anything? Okay, good. All right, well, then I will go ahead and adjourn this meeting of the Placerville Planning Commission at 7:35. 7:25. Last time I got the hour wrong, so I'll learn how to tell a clock one of these days.